Okay, picture this. It's January 2011. You are 10 years old. Laura Linney pops up on your TV screen to tell you it's time for Masterpiece Classic, and your life is changed forever. This was my experience watching the premiere of Downton Abbey on PBS in 2011. Downton Abbey was a period drama TV show that chronicles the story of this family, the Crawley family, and their estate, Downton Abbey, that ran from January 2011 in the States and ran for 6 seasons, plus 3 movie adaptations, the last of which just came out in September of 2025. So this story has been going on for a long time. It is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It is beautifully high stakes and low stakes all at the same time. The costumes are beautiful. There's so many characters that go through some crazy character arcs. So I thought I would make a little video detailing the season 1, just the season 1 arc of Downton Abbey. Maybe I'll keep going. There's a lot that happens. I kind of fell off watching the show around the end of season 3. If you know, you know. If we get there, I'm sorry. I am excited to go on this journey with you all. If you've never seen the show before, strap in. If you've seen it before and you just want to come along on the journey with me, I think it'll be pretty fun. Here we go. Some little background on the show. So, Downton Abbey was created and mostly written by, I'm going to get this right, Julian Alexander Kitchener Fellows, Baron Fellows of West Stafford. And Mr. Fellows contains multitudes. He is a conservative member of the House of Lords in England. He was given a title. However, he was in a sketch comedy club at Cambridge. So he's really just like us, right? So this guy, complicated guy, he knows how to make a piece of period drama. I can tell you that much right now. A lot of people criticized it for being too sympathetic towards these like super wealthy elites because it's just constantly them being like, oh, we don't have enough money, but they have this like gigantic house and they live quite lavishly. So it is sometimes kind of hard to feel entirely sympathetic towards them because they are the landed elites of the time in a system that greatly favors them. That's part of the fun, I think. It's just melodramatic and you just get swept in. Some people were really mean about this show and said it was really bad, but I think that those people actually just don't know how to have fun or invite joy into their lives. I'm going to read a quote from David Camp of Vanity Fair that I think really sums up my feelings on the show. He writes, "Melodrama is an uncool thing to trade in these days, but then that's precisely why Downton Abbey is so pleasurable. In its clear delineation between the goodies and the baddies, in its regulated dosages of highs and lows, the show is a welcome counter-programming to the slow-burning despair of moral ambiguity of most quality drama on television right now." This show came out right when Breaking Bad was at its peak, so people really were happy to have a show that was really cut and dry, easy watching for the most part. The good guys usually come out on top. I mean, not always, but there is a very clear delineation, like Camp says in that quote. Here we go. Episode 1, the pilot of Downton Abbey. One of my favorite pilots of all time. The opening shot is a telegraph machine and then a train, okay? It is turn of the century. What year specifically could it be? We'll find out soon. We see a man who we later learn to be Mr. Bates, looking solemn on said train. A woman we never see again receives bad news over the telegraph machine, okay? Wonder what that bad news could be. Turn of the century, some kind of tragedy, I don't know. We cut to the interior of Downton Abbey. Outside looks like, maybe springtime, okay? And then we get a time card, 1912. What happened in the spring of 1912? I can't imagine. We start getting kind of this sweeping shot through the downstairs. We meet some of our downstairs characters. I'm going to run you through them really quickly. Okay, we have Mr. Carson. He is the head butler. He is awesome. We love Mr. Carson. Kind of this tough exterior, but like really soft interior that we see later. We have Mrs. Hughes, head housekeeper. She is also awesome. She's so good at her job, but she also has this like really soft side that we get to see later. We have Anna, head housemaid. She is the lady's maid currently to the daughters in the house upstairs who we will meet later. We have Miss O'Brien, who is simply evil. She's so mean. She has a delicious Yorkshire accent, but she's just evil. This season, there is no redeeming quality to Miss O'Brien, and I love her for it. We have Thomas, who is the first footman. He is also quite evil, but he has a secret. Ooh. We have Mrs. Patmore, who is the cook. She is crazy and ginger and is constantly yelling at Daisy, who is her kitchen maid, who is so small and dumb. She's basically always making the exact wrong decision that a person should be making in any given scenario. And Mrs. Patmore is constantly yelling at her for it, which she does often deserve. Sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she really is just trying her best. But basically, Mrs. Patmore always yelling at Daisy is what you need to know. We have William, who's a sweet, sweet, sweet little boy. He is the second footman, and he really is just genuinely trying his best at all times. Really good kid. We have Gwen, who's another housemaid. She has dreams and ambitions, and we'll get to her later. Branson is not here yet, so ignore him for now. Back to the real time of this episode. So, Mrs. Patmore is sniping at Daisy. This is like the first thing we see downstairs, which makes a lot of sense because it's always happening. We get this sweeping shot upstairs. Thomas is being mean to William, which he often is. Anna and Gwen are talking about this fancy newfangled electricity they have in the house. It's 1912. And they're all talking about how the newspaper is late. Wonder why that could be. Maybe there was a big story that broke overnight? We finally get the papers. William is ironing them on an ironing board, which I guess is something they did in 1912. Everyone downstairs is talking about the news. Oh, the news, the terrible, terrible news. What could it be? And now we go upstairs. Lord Grantham, the man of the house, the father character, has entered the chat with his dog, who apparently in season 1 is named Pharaoh. His name is never said. In season 2, the dog turns into a girl and is named Isis. The dog remains one of my favorite characters, and I will be very excited anytime she appears. At breakfast, we meet most of the family here. So we have Lord Grantham, father of the house. He is rich and a man. He's pretty traditional. That's kind of all he's giving. We have giving one of the most iconic and confusing vocal performances on TV of all time. We have Lady Cora Crawley. She is mom. She's very sweet. She's American, but she has this elevated, vintage, been living in England for a long time kind of American accent. She's sweet. She's very motherly. She just wants what's best for her girls. And now we have the 3 daughters. We have Mary Crawley. She is my problematic fave of the series. She is kind of a B-word, but she is so cool and funny and smart and quippy and stubborn and independent, and she loves to pick a fight with her dad and with her younger sister, Edith. Edith is the middle sibling and is constantly forgotten about and talked down to. She doesn't really have any particular special qualities other than wanting attention from her family, which she never gets, and being mean to Mary, which makes for a really fun dynamic. And then we have the youngest sister, angel on this earth, Sybil Crawley. She is just so kind and wide-eyed and innocent, but so idealistic, and is always dreaming of a better world, and is also very independent and stubborn in her own ways. So we're all at breakfast, and we finally say the Titanic has sunk. Lord Grantham is reading the paper, and he sees that the Titanic has sunk. He's like, man, that sucks. Sucks that all those people died. And then we get an urgent telegram that his cousins, nephew, cousins were on board, James and Patrick. We find out this is bad because they were the heirs to the Downton estate, right? He has 3 daughters, and women can't own property, obviously. So we are finding out that the 2 people who were next in line for succession have sunk deep into the icy Atlantic. Now, everyone in the house is gossiping about this problem with Patrick and James being on board. And 2 of the maids ask, well, why were they the people inheriting? Why can't Lady Mary inherit? And O'Brien very handily goes over the rules of succession in England in the 1910s. She's a girl, stupid. Girls can't inherit. Now, the solemn man from the train, he's here. His name is John Bates, and he is the new valet, and he uses a cane. Everybody's mad about it. Everybody's mad that this guy is disabled. It's crazy. They're so mad about it. Everybody except for Anna, with whom Bates shares a cheeky little smile upon his arrival, and she believes in him, even though he is disabled. Back upstairs, we are talking about this problem with the inheritance, and we find out that Mary was engaged to Patrick, who was the son, the second in line. But nobody knew about it outside the family, and it seems like this was very much a marriage of convenience to keep the money in the family. And Mary is mostly just annoyed that she has to go into mourning and wear black all the time now. This episode, we have a lot of exposition about how this inheriting, it's called the entail, how this entail works and why it works the way it does. And there's all this stuff about how, so Lord Grantham married Cora because she was a rich American heiress. And then when they got married, all of her money got put into his estate that he had inherited. And the way that their basically prenup worked was that all of her money gets tied up into the estate. So now it can't be passed on to any of her daughters because it's part of the property now, I think, is why that is. But there's a scene where Cora and Robert are talking about how it's unfair and it sucks, and everybody thinks that, but they can't do anything about it, I guess. Everybody, Maggie Smith is in the drawing room. Maggie Smith plays Lady Violet Crawley, who is Robert's mom. So she is the grandma to the daughters, and she is awesome. This is one of my favorite characters in all of TV. She just sits there looking incredulous and then delivers the most amazing one-liners you've ever heard. She is sitting in the drawing room openly speaking ill of the dead, and we can see that there is a bit of an antagonistic relationship between Violet and Cora, right? Mother-in-law situation. They don't super get along. We find out that there is this random third cousin of Robert's who is the new heir to Downton Abbey. We don't know who this guy is. Cora and Lady Violet are in agreement that they don't want this random third cousin coming in and taking all their stuff. So they're kind of hatching a plan to try to figure out if they can get Mary, the oldest daughter, to inherit. and they are kind of becoming friends. You can see they're finding some common ground here. Back downstairs, all of the downstairs folks are having their lunch, and Lord Grantham, Robert, pops downstairs, which seems kind of annoying because everybody has to stand up when someone, like a member of the family, comes downstairs. Oh, sorry, Edith. Sorry, girl. And we find out that Lord Grantham knows Mr. Bates from capital T, capital W, the war. And they were kind of war buddies. So now everyone's like, oh, I see. Mr. Bates is like a war Nepo baby. And that's why he got this job. Now they are prepping lunch or dinner in the kitchen downstairs. There's an asparagus cake. I want to try that. Mrs. Patmore is, as usual, sniping at Daisy. There is a bowl of salt of sorrel, which is like a cleaning solution, I think. But it's poison. And Mrs. Patmore is like, why is that on the table? Get it out of here, Daisy. And she's like, yeah, of course, right away. But she's so tiny and flustered always. She immediately picks it up and hands it to William to sprinkle on the chicken? Yeah, to sprinkle on the chicken. There's like a bowl of salt of sorrel and a bowl of chopped eggs right next to each other. And Daisy picks up the salt of sorrel, hands it to William, and is like, go sprinkle this on the chicken. We are only saved in this situation, right? We could have been done. The entire family literally could have died episode 1 because Daisy told William to sprinkle poison on the chicken.
It's poison.
But we are saved by William's buffoonery because he comes back down and is like, wait, what did you tell me to sprinkle this on? I don't even remember. We are now at the funeral for, what are their names? James and Patrick? The guys who drowned. We find out that the new heir of Downton Abbey, the next Earl of Grantham, is Matthew Crawley. We don't see him yet, so don't look yet. Who is a lawyer who lives with his mom in Manchester. A Manchester mama's boy. Just how I like him. And here we see one of the first moments of the sisters dynamic, right? We have Edith is being dramatic about being sad. She's like making this whole scene of it. Mary is like, oh, would you just calm down? And Sybil is trying to de-escalate, which is basically anytime the three of them are in a room together, it's either Edith being dramatic and Mary teasing her about it, or Mary being dramatic and Edith teasing her about it, and Sybil is simply trying to de-escalate at all times. Carson is downstairs decanting wine in his room, in his office, and Mrs. Hughes comes in and they're just kind of gabbing about the entail and how it's so weird and they hope they can figure it out. And Mrs. Hughes is like, why do you care about these kids so much? Because Carson really wants Mary to be able to inherit. And she goes, well, they're not your family. And he says, they're all the family I've got. I'm crying. I love this man so much. Bates is helping Lord Grantham get dressed, and they're talking about how Bates sustained his injury while they were fighting in the war. But more importantly, the dog is also there. Thomas and O'Brien are being sneaky. They do this thing where they stand in a doorway and have an evil, sneaky chat. Sometimes they're standing outside smoking cigarettes and Thomas is wearing his evil Newsies hat, which is fun. But they are basically trying to sow seeds of doubt in Mr. Bates. They don't think he can do his job because he uses a cane, and Thomas really wants his job because the head valet to the Lord of the House is a higher position than Thomas currently has. The family is sitting around chatting upstairs. We hear Mary and Cora also talking about how they don't know if Bates is up for the job. We also find out that Edith maybe kind of had a thing for Patrick, the heir who drowned, who Mary was supposed to marry. So there's this kind of tension here because Mary's like, I don't really care. I never really liked him that much. I was just like supposed to marry him, I guess. And Edith is upset about that because Mary is being annoying about it. And it seems like she actually did really care about Patrick, which is sad. Bates, to make matters worse, with everybody doubting if he can do his job or not, drops a tray of silverware downstairs. And everybody looks around like, this guy can't do anything. Can't even carry a tray of silverware. Who amongst us has never dropped something? Daisy almost killed the entire family. Like yesterday. Okay, and Bates drops a couple forks. Now, the Duke of Crowborough is here for dinner, and he is under the impression that Mary is going to inherit all of the estate. So he shows up to the house trying to get in on that. They are all doing this big fancy procession thing for the Duke when he gets there. They all stand outside while his carriage pulls up, and O'Brien kicks Bates's cane out from under him, so he falls down on the gravel driveway in front of everybody as the Duke is coming in, and it's super embarrassing and mean. He falls flat on his face, and Anna helps him up, of course, and it's really sweet. The Duke's footman is sick, so he needs Thomas to look after him. Something sus is going on here. We don't know yet. And once they're all settled inside, the Duke and Mary have some major flirty vibes. She seems into it, and he asks to see all the like little secret spots around the house. And so she's like, oh, we really shouldn't be doing this. He's like, oh, but I want to know all about this big, beautiful house you have. So they're kind of sneaking around, and they go up to the servants' quarters. And Mary's like, I really don't think we should be here. This is like an invasion of privacy. And he's like, no. I want to go check everything out. And he like goes into some rooms, and it's just like kind of being a little nosy boy and kind of rude because he's invading all these people's personal space. But Mr. Bates catches them, and it's really awkward because everyone's feeling awkward about him. And then he finds the lady of the house and their guest like rummaging through servants' quarters, and it's just a really weird situation, and I think Mary feels really bad about it. Carson is really stressed out because he doesn't trust Bates to be in the dining room during dinner because he dropped a plate of silverware and he fell down one time. And they're going to have a maid in the dining room. Can you believe? And Lord Grantham tells Mr. Bates that he's probably going to have to fire him. And Bates basically begs Lord Grantham to keep him on because it is so unlikely that he will find another job anywhere. Anna comes up to Bates's room later and brings him some food because he's like hiding up in his room, and she comes in and he's crying. He's so stressed. This man has been through too much. At dinner, Edith is pressing Mary about why they were up in the servants' quarters, just calling her out over dinner. And the Duke asks Lord Grantham if they can stay in the dining room while everybody else goes through to talk about something, marrying his daughter and inheriting his property. But as soon as Lord Grantham is like, yeah, okay, so here's the thing, like, she's not inheriting the house, like, we can't do anything about it, but, like, she'll have a really big dowry, like, if that's what you're looking for. And the Duke is like, whoa, why would I want to marry your stupid daughter? Right, as soon as he finds out that she's not inheriting, he's like, what, why would you even insinuate? That's not why I'm here at all. I can see right through you, Duke of Crowborough. And Lord Grantham gets angry about this. He's like, dude, you're not being sneaky, okay? That's so rude of you to make me feel dumb. The Duke goes up to his room, and Mary's like, oh, what? Like, we're not gonna, like, sit here and flirt in the parlor? And Lord Grantham is like, nah, dude, it's off. And Edith, to, really twist the knife into Mary, goes, so he slipped the hook. And Mary says, at least I'm not fishing with no bait. Come on! So, up in the Duke's room, Thomas is helping him get ready for bed, and they seem like they know each other. They're kind of buddy-buddy. And then their faces get really close. And then they start smooching. Turns out, Duke of Crowborough and evil footman Thomas are lovers. Thomas is an evil gay. Bet you weren't expecting an evil gay in your period drama. But the Duke wants to break it off. And Thomas is not happy about that. He gets really upset. He says, I have proof. I have all these letters that we've been writing back and forth to each other up in my room. And the Duke goes over and says, oh, you mean these letters that I stole from your room earlier while I was snooping around the servants' quarters? Oh, I'm going to toss them in the fire. Lord Grantham is talking to Lady Grantham about the Duke and how he totally backed out once he found out Mary wasn't inheriting. And Cora says, well, would she have even been happy with a fortune hunter? And he says, you were. Which is like, I guess cute, but also like he married her for her money. They're in love now, and it's like, it's good, and they sleep in the same bed, which is like kind of rare for the time, but I just feel like that's a really funny way of flirting with your wife. The next morning, the Duke is leaving, and so is Bates. Bates is all packed up, ready to go. But then Lord Grantham runs out of the house wearing some stupid little pants, and he stops the car Bates is in, and he says, I need you to stay. I need you to stay here and help me out. We cut to Manchester. A beautiful blonde man with the bluest eyes you've ever seen in your entire life opens a letter. He turns to his mother. She says, what is it? He says, it's Lord Grantham. He wants to change our lives. Matthew Crawley is in the house. Episode 2. Matthew and his mom, Isabel, who we love. We love Isabel. She's so cool. And she plays Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, on Doctor Who. She is super smart, super level-headed, really knows how to communicate with people she doesn't agree with. She's really cool. Matthew, he just kind of wants to be a guy, right? He's like a lawyer in a mid-sized town, and he's like super happy with that life. He is actually not super down to inherit. He doesn't want to have to deal with this big house. He is quite upset that his way of life is being disrupted. Isabel and Matthew move into one of the little cottages on the estate. I say little cottage. It's a house. It's a full house. Matthew gets a valet, Mr. Mosley, who I really should have printed a picture of, but I forgot, which, considering this guy's whole vibe, is actually quite fitting. But Matthew's really mean to him and like makes fun of him for being a valet, for being a servant. He's like, why would you want to do that? Why don't you want to go do something useful with your life? And Mosley is like, I actually find like a lot of purpose in this line of work. And Matthew's kind of mean to him. He's feeling a lot of big feelings right now. But basically, Matthew is just whining about this entire situation and is like, ugh, I hope they don't push one of their stupid daughters on me to marry me. And then Mary walks in her sassy little riding top hat, and he regrets what he said immediately. Oh no, he's hot! But Mary has overheard what he just said and is super rude about it, which he deserves because he was being kind of rude too. And Matthew has made a bad first impression on Mary, which is tough for him because she's the only person that he has showed any interest in the family. Back at the big house, everyone is freaking out about Matthew. The people downstairs are mad because he's a doctor. No, he's not a doctor. Because he's a lawyer from Manchester. He's a doctor's son. All these people with real jobs. How dare they try to own a mansion? What the heck? All the family upstairs is talking about how Mary should probably marry this guy, right? That would make sense. She was supposed to marry the last heir. Never mind that all these people are cousins. They are related distantly. You just have to roll with it. They have the same last name. Third cousins. Okay? We just have to be okay with third cousins. Matthew and Isabel are having dinner with the family at the big house, and everyone's being really weird to them. Everyone is shocked that Matthew has a job. He says he wants to keep his job. He says, no, it's fine. I'll just be a lawyer during the week, and then I'll come in and deal with the house on the weekends. And Maggie Smith hits us with, what is a weekend? There's chaos downstairs. Mrs. Patmore is being mean to Daisy. Mr. Carson is being mean to William because he has a tear in his shoulder seam. Carson is on edge. He usually wouldn't shoo William out in front of everybody like that, but he does have a tear in his shoulder seam. So, I mean, really, he had it coming, right? Carson goes back into his office and gets a telegram and serves us some crazy facial expressions. So there's Downton Abbey, and then there's like Downton Village, which like Lord Grantham is basically he owns the house and the property on the house, but he also is like the landlord for the whole village too. I think that's how property ownership works. Isabel is out and about in the village and goes to the village hospital. And she has some medical training and history. And there's this guy who's really suffering in the hospital, and she knows of this new technique that they're doing in the cities. And she talks to the doctor there and is like, hey, can we try this new treatment for this guy? And the doctor is like, no, we do things the old way here. Anna sees Carson, who, remember, is on edge, like smuggling a bag of food from downstairs, which is very unlike him. Cora, Lady Grantham, hears Miss O'Brien talking some smack about Matthew and chews her out, as she should. This is the first time O'Brien gets what's coming to her, but she is really mad. She feels really embarrassed and upset that she just got caught talking smack. We're getting ready for dinner. Lady Grantham is telling Mary that she basically just needs to buck up and marry Matthew. Lady Grantham is dishing it out today. She is telling off the people who need to be told off today. Because she says to Mary, for once in your life, would you please just listen? Which Mary needs to hear often. And we get to dinner, and Mary and Matthew are kind of bantering. It's giving kind of an enemies to lovers kind of banter, but it's fun. Mary is doing this kind of extended metaphor thing where she's talking about this myth of Andromeda and how she is supposed to marry this sea monster to save her kingdom. Real slick allusion there, Mary. But then the Prince Perseus comes and saves her, and she says, that's much more fitting, isn't it, right? This princess marrying a prince and not the sea monster. And Matthew hits her with, I'd have to know more about the princess and sea monster in question. Everyone is shocked. Mr. Bates and Anna are alone downstairs, and they're just kind of being cute, chatting, chit-chatting, flirting, as they often do. And there's a knock at the front door, but nobody else is home to answer it. Like, Carson's not there. Carson is supposed to be the one who answers the door. He's not there. So Bates is like, oh my God, I guess I have to go answer the door. He goes and answers the front door upstairs, and this really shady guy walks in. He just kind of lets himself in, is waltzing around the house, and has this kind of tough guy attitude, and he's being really rude. Lord Grantham and Carson get back to the house at the same time, and they're like, whoa, who's this guy? What's he doing up here? Turns out, Carson used to be a traveling vaudeville performer, and this guy that shown up was his partner. They used to be like a tap dancing duo in the circus, and he's here blackmailing Carson, and that's why Carson has been on edge. That's why Carson has been stealing food, right? And Carson turns to Lord Grantham and he's like, I'm so sorry. I will have my things packed by the end of the day. You will never see my face again. And Lord Grantham is like, dude, I don't care that you used to tap dance. Go do your job. Let's get this guy out of here. So Lord Grantham just pays him off and he's like, goodbye. I don't know why this plot point is introduced. I don't think it ever comes back. It at least doesn't come back this season. But it's just a little piece of info that we have that Carson used to be a vaudeville performer, which just makes you love him even more, doesn't it? Theater kid Carson confirmed. Back at the hospital, Lady Violet is the chairman of the board at the hospital. So she kind of gets to walk around and be in charge and tell people what to do. But now that Isabel's here, vastly more knowledgeable, and is kind of around calling the shots, there's some tension there, right? These two have a lot of tension. They kind of represent the old-fashioned way of doing things and the newer, more progressive way of doing things, right? So Isabel is there, and she has decided we're going ahead with this new procedure that she wants to try. Violet shows up and she's like, whoa, what's going on? Why are we doing this? She's trying to stop him, but Isabel's like, no, I'm going to save this guy's life and get him out of pain. So they do this new procedure. Violet sees it work and goes, maybe these newfound fangled ways ain't so bad. She says it just like that. And because it works, Lord Grantham makes Isabel the new chairman of the board of the hospital. I know. Back at the big house, Lord Grantham and Matthew are having a little heart-to-heart as they do. They just kind of walk the grounds, and Lord Grantham gives Matthew life advice. It's kind of sweet. They don't, like, their relationship isn't super warm or familial, but I don't know, they have some nice moments. Lord Grantham teaches Matthew about servants and talks about the dignity that there is in that work. And this is one of those moments where I don't know if everything he's saying is like super condescending and privileged, or if this is like actually kind of like a hot take of the time. I just don't know. But it's a nice sentiment. Either way, Lord Grantham is expressing that he acknowledges the humanity of the people who work for him. And at the end of the day, I'm going to take that as a win for Lord G. Okay. After that talk, Matthew lets Mosley pick out his cufflinks, which is very sweet. And Mosley is so excited to pick out the cufflinks Matthew wears to dinner. Carson is feeling really embarrassed about everybody finding out that he was a theater kid. So Mrs. Hughes gives him a pep talk. They have a really sweet friendship of like mutual respect. I like these two a lot. And anytime it's a scene between the two of them, you know we're just getting good stuff. Good stuff from these two. And the last shot of the episode is Dame Maggie Smith serving tremendous face at the ceremony initiating Isabel as the chairman of the board of the hospital. Episode 3. Mary has been corresponding with a man named Evelyn Napier. Find me a better name. And they've been kind of flirting over letter. And he is going to come visit Downton Abbey with his friend, the Turkish ambassador, Kemal Pamuk, who is here for the Albania talks to create an independent Albania. Obviously. Happy 1912, everybody. Anna has been seeing Gwen writing some secret correspondence and thinks that she has a fella somewhere, a beau. But it turns out Gwen has actually been taking typing courses because she wants to be a secretary. And Anna finds the typewriter that Gwen has hidden in their room. Lady Violet is still wanting to fight the entail. She still really wants Mary to be able to inherit. But Lord and Lady Grantham are starting to feel pretty okay about Matthew. And they're like, you know what? This guy, he's pretty cool. I think, we'll be okay. And it seems like Mary's interested in this Evelyn Napier guy. So sure, we can start running with that. Edith sees this as her opening, obviously, and she asks Matthew to hang out. She's like, hey, can I show you some local churches? So they do that. He's riding around on a little bicycle. It's really adorable. O'Brien finds out about Gwen's typewriter and snitches to everybody downstairs, and they are all shocked. How could Gwen possibly try to rise above her station as a housemaid to be a secretary? How could she? Who does she think she is? Gwen is really sad because she is like, you know what? Everybody's right. This is a stupid idea. I'm never going to be able to be a secretary. And Bates gives her a really sweet pep talk. And we get the first inkling of Bates's dark past. This will be a recurring theme to look out for. He tells her, you can change your life completely. Believe me. What's it mean, Bates? What's it mean? We also have this episode, the devastating plot line of Mr. Bates going to some doctor guy, I guess, and trying to buy a limp corrector machine thing. It's like a brace that he puts on, and it is terribly painful. He is in so much pain this whole episode, and we see it eventually. When we see it, it's digging into his leg, and it's all cut up and terrible. It's a really, really sad moment for Bates. Evelyn Napier and Mr. Pamuk are here. They've shown up. We're all going on a hunt. Mary is wearing her SLT, her sassy little top hat, yet again. Evelyn Napier has maybe the squarest head I've ever seen on a guy. And Mary says, "Oh, where's this little foreigner you've brought with you? Where's, she's kind of infantilizing him already because he's not from England. Cool." And then Kamal Pamuk shows up, and I will give you 3 seconds to guess who plays Kamal Pamuk, Turkish ambassador. It's Theo James.
Oh no, he's hot!
Divergent star Theo James plays Kamal Pamuk. I don't know why this is like the most amusing thing to me. I didn't clock it when I was younger, when I was watching this for the first time. When he showed up on screen, I went, "Is that Theo James playing the Turkish ambassador, Kamal Pamuk?" Okay. But as soon as he shows up, everyone's like, "Oh my God, that guy is so hot." There are so many dogs in this sequence because they're going hunting, but no Pharaoh, not my favorite. So back to Edith and Matthew taking a tour of local churches. Edith is trying so hard to rizz up Matthew in these scenes, and he's just like, "Wow, beautiful church. Hey, what's Mary's deal?" And Edith is really trying to just, connect about their love of architecture. And Matthew says, "Oh, this is so nice, Edith. Thank you so much for bringing me. We should bring my mom next time." Ouch, Edith. Ouch. Edith sucks, but she also can't catch a break. So it's hard to be mad at her because she's just constantly going through it. Thomas is Mr. Pamuk's footman while he's staying at the house. And Thomas is clearly into him. Also, Mr. Bates has clocked Thomas's tea. He's like, "Oh, that guy's pretty handsome. I bet Thomas was happy when he showed up." Throughout the season, everybody kind of acknowledges that they know about Thomas, which I guess in a way is kind of nice because they never use it against him. He has many, many negative qualities that they can use against him instead, I guess, so it makes sense. But he doesn't get bullied or anything for it, which is nice. I just think it's nice. Anyways, while Thomas is serving Mr. Pamuk, he tries to make a move on him, like just straight up tries to kiss him, which is crazy. You're a footman in a house and you really value your job and are looking for upward mobility in your place of work, and you try to make a move on a Turkish ambassador that you're serving for like a weekend? Crazy work, Thomas. But Pamuk is like, "No, thank you. I won't tell on you if you can do me a favor." At dinner, all of the family are discussing Gwen, talking about how she wants to be a secretary. Violet, of course, is like, "Why would she want to do that? She should stay a maid. She should know her place." Isabel and Sybil are both like, "I think that's a lovely idea. I think, if a young girl wants to make a name for herself as a secretary, she should be able to do it." Matthew is sending longing glances across the table to Mary, who is flirting hard with Mr. Pamuk, Theo James. Evelyn Napier and Matthew are both totally getting cock-blocked by Theo James, and they kind of bond over it. It's kind of cute. They're like, "Wow, guess this one ain't working out for us, huh?" Mr. Pamuk gets Mary alone in the library for a moment, makes a big move on her. He kisses her, and she's into it. And then he asks if he can come up to her room that night, in the night. That's the favor he asked Thomas for, right? Is to show him how to get to Mary's room. And Mary is like, we really probably shouldn't do that. And he shows up at her room that night anyways. This whole moment has the consent is not there. However, when later asked about it, Mary says that he did not force himself on her. Not once does she give him an enthusiastic yes. I don't know what to do with that. They don't make it a thing that it was a non-consensual event. They, in fact, really double down on the fact that it was a consensual event. Do with that what you will. Mary is like, "I know that I seem like a cool girl who, can freak it all around town, but that's really not me. I just talk a really big talk." And Pamuk is like, don't worry, I'll take care of you." Ugh. Mr. Kamal Theo James Pamuk freaks it to death. He dies in Mary's bed of some kind of cardiac event, Mary is panicking. There's a dead foreign ambassador in her bed. If anybody finds out that there's a man in her bed, period, she is ruined. Her entire family is ruined. She doesn't know what to do. She goes and wakes up Anna, her lady's maid, and is like, please help me. I don't know what to do. There's a dead guy in my bed. Anna is like, you think us two can carry Theo James? No, we gotta go wake up your mom. So they go and get her mom, and they're like, we're gonna figure this out together. There's kind of a fun little murder mystery kind of feel to this. They're doing a little late night caper, and the stakes are really high for them, but it's an inherently silly situation. So the three of them, Anna, Lady Cora, and Mary, carry Theo James's naked body across the house to his guest room to just make it look like he died in his sleep. And they think they are completely unseen in this act, but Daisy catches just a little glimpse around the corner, just enough to be suspicious, but not enough to really know exactly what she saw. Now, the next day, Sybil has decided that she is going to help Gwen find a job. She is going to use her connections. She is going to help this girl live her dreams, which is very sweet and a very Sybil thing to do. Evelyn Napier realizes that Mary is not into him. He bows out very gracefully. Duke of Crowborough could take some notes. Everybody is shocked at the death of Mr. Kamal Pamuk, who has died in his sleep in his own bed. Carson and Lord Grantham are talking about how this matter is so shocking and, we really shouldn't be talking about it in front of the ladies due to their delicate constitutions, when his wife, daughter, and one of their maids are the three who, actually literally carried his corpse across the house. Funny. Lady Violet hits us with, of course this would happen to a foreigner.
No Englishman would dream of dying in someone else's house.
Oh, British people. Mary, understandably, is crashing out. She is having a really bad time. Mary stands a lot to lose if the truth of this situation comes out. She has a really sweet moment with Carson where he is trying to comfort her. And she's like, Carson, you're always so nice to me. What's up with that? And he says, well, even a butler has his favorites. Come on, Carson. Here's my thing, is that Carson is Mary's real dad. Not like in a weird affair situation, but just emotionally, in all the ways that matter. Carson is Mary's papa. And I think that's really, really lovely. Mrs. Hughes finds out about Mr. Bates's limp corrector thing that he's been trying to do. And she's like, dude, that's terrible. You are clearly in so much pain. This is not working out for you. You don't need this, right? You are completely capable as you are. So they go and they chuck his leg brace thing into a river. And it's just a really sweet moment of self-acceptance for Bates and a huge win for Mrs. Hughes being the coolest person alive. Thomas and O'Brien are having one of their classic doorway sulks. Thomas is like, I think something shady went down with Mr. Pamuk because he asked me to do him this favor. I don't really know what to do with this information. This is, kind of a big secret. O'Brien says, your secret's safe with me, and takes a long, menacing drag of her cigarette. So, probably nothing to worry about there. Episode 4, The Fair is in town. We're going to the fair. We're excited for the fair. We also have a new valet. Not a valet, that's different. Enter Tom Branson. His name is also Thomas. He goes by Tom, but yes, there are 2 people named Thomas. They ran out of names. There was 6 of them back then, and we can't all be named Evelyn Napier. So we just have to roll with it. Tom Branson is a sweet Irish boy who loves history and politics and driving fast and being sexy. He is an Irish socialist. Whoa, try saying that 3 times fast. He is an Irish socialist Irish socialist, Irish socialist, Irish socialist. That's tough. And he and Sweet Sybil hit it off immediately because they both have these more progressive ideas about the world. She is fascinated to hear about all of the cool stuff that he is into. We are going over the details of the entail yet again with Lady Violet and Lady Grantham. And they are just like, man, you know, I really wish we knew like a lawyer that could help us out with all that. Do we know any lawyers? Violet says, I think I know the perfect lawyer to help us out with this situation. Molesley, Matthew's valet, has like a rash on his hands. Again, just one in a plethora of L's for Mr. Molesley. Isabel gets him some tinctures to try to help with his hands. She gives him the old-timey medical special, which is a bunch of metal dissolved in things. She gives him tincture of steel and solution of nitrate silver. Lady Violet says, is she making a suit of armor? Which, valid question. Lady Violet goes to Matthew to ask him if there's anything he can do with his law knowledge to fight the entail, which is kind of hilarious, going to somebody and being like, hey, do you know any ways that we don't have to give you all of our stuff? There is a hilarious bit of physical comedy wherein Dame Maggie Smith tries to sit in a swivel chair. We get one of many Julian Fellows history fun facts, and Matthew informs her that the swivel chair was invented by Thomas Jefferson, to which she says, why does every day involve a fight with an American? So downstairs, there's been this whole like love triangle thing where Daisy has a crush on Thomas and William has a crush on Daisy, okay? But Daisy really doesn't care about Thomas. She is in love with the evil gay man, which, who among us, right? So William is about to ask Daisy to go to the fair with him, but then Thomas, because he's evil, sees that this is happening and swoops in and asks Daisy himself. He doesn't care. He does not care about Daisy one bit. He just wants to be mean to sweet, sweet little William. Matthew runs into Mary at the fair, and they have some banter. You know, they're kind of starting to get along. Everybody is kind of getting used to each other being around. And then Matthew goes to talk to Lord Grantham. He sits on a very big couch and basically says there's nothing they can do. You know, there's no way to stop it. Violet overhears them. Matthew just feels really bad about this situation. He feels bad because he likes Mary so much, right? He feels bad that she is upset by this situation that there's nothing he can do about. And he's made it pretty clear that he's into her, so he's doing what he can to try to make this situation better, and it seems at this point would be down to marry her to get her the inheritance that she deserves. Mrs. Hughes, she takes off for the night. She is going to the fair, baby. She meets up with a man, a nice man in a cute little hat. And this man calls her by her first name. Turns out, this guy, he had proposed to her before when they were younger. She said no because she had just gotten her job at Downton. And she knew that she just valued having a career more than this guy. So this guy goes off and gets married to somebody else, but his wife has just died. And so he does the very British thing of asking somebody a question by not asking them the question, and says something like, if somebody who were to look like me were to ask somebody who looked like you if they would marry them, what do you think the person who looks and sounds and talks just like you would say? And basically she's like, I'll think about it. Anna is not at the fair because Anna is ill, and Bates brings her some food and takes care of her, and it's very sweet. They are just so very sweet. Everybody is gossiping about Mrs. Hughes and her man that she was talking to. And someone's like, oh, whoa, does Mrs. Hughes have a boyfriend? And O'Brien says, if she's got a boyfriend, I'm a giraffe. I gotta start using that. I gotta start using these things. Everybody is clocking Thomas bullying William. Like, he is just so mean to him all the time for no reason. And Bates snaps and, like, shoves Thomas up against a wall. Again, finally giving him an ounce of what he deserves. But this is also very out of character for Bates, right? Up until this point, he's been like a very gentle giant. We're getting more hints of the dark past. Lord Grantham and Mary are out on a walk. Lord Grantham hits us with a terrible take about how he doesn't really own Downton Abbey. He's just the caretaker, you know? And even if they were to give some of the money to Mary, that would be breaking up the estate and dishonoring the dynasty before him that has been a steward of this land and this community. Bad take. And Lord Grantham is like, well, maybe you should just marry Matthew, which is a good take, admittedly. And Mary explains to us what's going on very plainly and says she would never marry a man that everyone's telling her to. She says, I wish I wasn't stubborn, but I am. And that's kind of her whole deal. So keep that in mind. Also, the dog is out on the walk. I've been failing to mention dog appearances, and that's really my bad. Back to Mosley's hand infection, which I know you were worried about. Violet sees his hand infection, and she's like, hey, what's going on with that? And he's like, oh, well, I don't know. Lady Crawley Isabel said that it was this thing, and she gave me all this medicine. And Violet goes, oh, well, don't you work with that, like, plant in your father's garden that can give people rashes? Like, have you been wearing gloves when you're working in your dad's garden? And he's like, oh, no, I haven't. And that is what's causing the rash. So maybe the old way of thinking, sometimes it ain't so bad. All right? We're learning. We're learning from each other. Lord Grantham and Matthew have another one of their, like, almost father-son talks. And basically, Lord Grantham is warming up to the idea of Matthew inheriting, and Matthew is also warming up to the idea of inheriting. He apologizes for being kind of flippant about it all, and starts really taking an interest in what it means to be an owner of an estate like this. Mrs. Patmore is trying to convince Daisy that Thomas is bad news and is not worth her time, and so heavily insinuates, I don't think he's playing for your team, sweetie.
The Nile is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay.
Like, she knows. Everybody knows except for Daisy. And she just thinks he's so cool. I don't know why. He's so mean. I mean, he is, like, suave. I don't know. He's got the evil gay charm. I can't fault her for it. Mary is still crashing out from everything that's going on to her. Everything is kind of hitting her right now. She's like, nobody is fighting for me anymore to get the inheritance that is rightly mine. I am technically a ruined woman. Like, if anybody found out what I did, like, my dad thinks I am a lost cause and a lost soul. She is venting to her mom about how hard everything is. She is just talking about how she is feeling so lost and out of control. She says, I took a lover with no thought of marriage. A Turk! A Turk! There is a really long montage of William playing the piano, just to show us that he's a sweet, soulful boy. And Mrs. Hughes comes and tells him that he's too good for Daisy, which is true. I am liking Daisy so much less on this watch. I remember her just, like, being kind of silly, but she is so bad at making decisions. You would think she would learn. Oh, Daisy girl. And as Mrs. Hughes is contemplating her proposal and whether or not she should stay in service, we slowly fade to Gwen, who is really wanting to leave service, to show us the juxtaposition between the two characters. Gwen is sad because she had an interview. Sybil got her an interview for a secretary position, but it got canceled, so she's feeling sad. But Sybil encourages her to keep trying. Mrs. Hughes is grappling with this proposal situation, and she kind of confesses everything to Carson. They have such a sweet relationship. They're so best friends, and it's very sweet. He's like, well, I don't know what we do without you here if we didn't have you. And she ultimately decides to stay because she's like, who else is going to run this house? Who else is going to like make sure Mrs. Patmore doesn't murder Daisy in cold blood and hit Thomas with snarky one-liners? Like who else is going to put in that work? I don't think anybody will. Sybil, this episode, has also had a whole subplot about going and getting a new dress. Her mom was like, okay, go to our dressmaker. Branson will take you to our dressmaker in town. But on their way there, Sybil's like, ugh, I don't want like a stupid old dress. It's just gonna be like the same old dress I always get. And Branson is like, well, why don't we go somewhere cooler where they can make you a cool new outfit? And she's like, you know what? Let's do it. So Sybil comes down to dinner in what is essentially a teal parachute pant romper and a tiara, pictured here. It honestly kind of eats down, and this is a really epic moment, really epic Sybil moment, and everybody is shocked. And then we see Branson watching this moment through the window and smiling to himself because he's a sweet, sweet baby boy, and he's got a crush on Sybil. Episode 5. Thomas is stealing wine. Bates catches him, so Bates has some dirt on Thomas. And most importantly, it's the flower show. Lady Cora is planning it. Daisy is having war flashbacks to seeing Lady Mary, Lady Crawley, and Anna carrying Pamuk's dead body across the house. Forgot about that, didn't you? Forgot that Theo James freaked himself to death. Well, we're back. We're back on that plotline. Downstairs, Anna is asking Daisy why she's been acting so weird. And Daisy's like, well, it's just kind of freaky because those 2 guys died on the Titanic and then another guy died in the house. And everyone's like, Daisy, can you get over the Titanic, please? Like, that was so long. Like, they're just all so mad at her for bringing up the Titanic again, and I think it's so funny that they are telling her to get over the Titanic. It is time for the flower show, which Cora is organizing. And Mr. Molesley is helping his dad out with his stall, because his dad has like a big, beautiful garden and likes to grow flowers and submit them to the flower show, because he's just a sweet guy. Isabel finds out that Violet has won the flower show like every year and is like, I'm sure you have a very good gardener, but like, there's a lot of other good gardeners. Like, I don't know, Mr. Molesley's dad. But Violet is wearing her cool grape hat again, so that's huge for me. They are hosting a dinner this evening and inviting Lord Anthony Strallen, who is another potential suitor for Mary. Cora is downstairs trying to convince Mrs. Patmore to make the hot new pudding apple charlotte. New pudding just dropped. It's apple charlotte. Mrs. Patmore is like, no, I can't change the menu. Not this last minute. And Daisy's like, oh, well, I can read you the recipe if that's the problem. And Mrs. Patmore flips out because that's definitely the problem. Sybil has applied for another job for Gwen because she is first and foremost a girl's girl. Gwen is pretending to be sick so that she can go to the interview with Lady Sybil. They take some horses. Because Gwen is sick, Mr. Bates is helping Anna make up some of the beds, which I really doubt that would actually be the line of succession that, but I mean, he wanted to hang out with her. Bates and Anna are talking about how Edith was in love with Patrick, the heir who drowned in the Titanic. And Bates is like, yeah, it's sad. And Anna goes, yeah, it's really sad to be in love with somebody who isn't in love with you. And they exchange meaningful eye contact. And then Bates says, no, it's sad that he drowned on the Titanic. And Anna goes, no, yeah, that's that's what I was talking about too. Then Bates says, well, I mean, who knows? Maybe Patrick loved Edith back, but he couldn't tell her. More meaningful eye contact. Back to the flower show. Isabel is talking about how Lady Violet has won every year and is like, babe, it's rigged, right? Like, that they just give you the prize because you're like in charge. And she's like, what? No, my gardener grows the best flowers. obviously. And they have a conversation that goes as such. You are quite wonderful. The way you see room for improvement everywhere you look. I never knew such reforming zeal.
I take that as a compliment. I must have said it wrong.
Come on. So good. I love how low stakes this plot is, but it takes up so much time in this episode. Lord Grantham is missing a snuff box. Somebody stole a snuff box from his room. I wonder if it's the most shady people you've ever met in your life. I wonder who could possibly be stealing in this house. And when Carson asks about it, Thomas and O'Brien are super clearly trying to frame Bates. They're like, well, I mean, Bates is like in his room the most, right? So like it's probably him. Sybil and Gwen are coming back from Gwen's interview and their horse has thrown a shoe. So they can't like get back. And everyone's really worried about them because they didn't have Find My Friends back then. So they didn't know where they were. O'Brien is in Edith's room, kind of plants in her head this idea that Mary had something to do with Pamuk's death. But then she blames that leak on Daisy. She's like, well, I don't know. I just heard like Daisy saying something about it. Sneaky lady. And O'Brien knows that Edith will jump at the opportunity to ruin Mary's life. So she has disseminated this information to the perfect person to just make everything terrible. So Edith calls Daisy up to her room, and Daisy is freaking out because she doesn't really know what's going on. And she's been called, she's a kitchen maid. She is like lowest of the low in the staff, and she's been called up to the bedroom of one of the ladies of the house, and she's like grilling her about something that she definitely wasn't supposed to see. She's freaking out. Violet and Isabel are still back at the flower show, trying to get everything settled. Matthew and Mary are also there, flirting. Matthew is down so bad for this girl, and she's a little bit charmed. Okay, they're finding more even footing every day. Anthony Strallen has arrived. He is the suitor that the parents have brought for Mary. He's old, unfortunately.
Oh no!
He's old. Mary is complaining to her mom about how they keep shoving men on her. Cora is like, well, there's a rumor going around that you are not virtuous because Thomas wrote a letter to another footman that he knows, and so about the things that he knows about Pamuk's demise. So there's word going around now that Mary is not as pure as they would want her to be. Ugh, I hated saying that. Mary somehow turns this conversation about her mistakes into talking bad about Edith, and Edith overhears the entire thing. So she is ready to come at Mary with a vengeance. And she has some information. Downstairs, Mrs. Patmore drops an entire chicken on the floor. We also get introduced to Kitchen Cat, who tries to steal some of the chicken. They literally just pick the chicken up off the floor and wipe it down and serve it. Did we know what germs were at that point? I can't remember when that happened. Mr. Anthony Old Strallen is being so boring at dinner. He's just talking about farming machines, and Mary is so bored and flirting with Matthew, but Edith is enthralled by Anthony's talk of farming equipment. The dessert comes up, the pudding, the old pudding, not the hot new pudding, not the apple charlotte. Anthony Strallen takes the first bite of pudding and exclaims,
Oh, good God!
because Mrs. Patmore has put salt on top of the pudding instead of sugar. And Mary and Matthew have a good little giggle about this. After they've gone through to the sitting room after dinner, Edith is bragging about how Anthony Strallen has seemingly taken a liking to her. And Mary goes, oh, is that a challenge? And Edith goes, if you like. And Mary like. So Mary walks in and Matthew's like, hey, because they've been hitting it off, right? He thinks that we're going to keep flirting in the parlor room. She swerves him so hard and goes right up to Anthony Strallen and is like, hey, Mr. Strallen, what's up? And Matthew is really sad and he leaves because he's feeling very embarrassed. And then Mary realizes that he left and starts to feel a little bit bad. Mary is showing signs of remorse. So there's some character development for ya. Now, Mrs. Patmore is downstairs. She's inconsolable. She's freaking out, and she is somehow trying to blame this on Daisy, as usual. And Anna has clocked that Thomas and O'Brien are trying to frame Bates for the missing snuff box. So she tells Bates, she's like, hey, like, while there's all this commotion about the salty pudding, you should go into your room and find the snuff box because it's surely planted there. And then you go and plant it in Thomas's room. Uno reverse, the sneaker has gotten sneaked. Carson goes all cool English teacher on Mrs. Patmore and is like, babe, what is going on? Like, you are so off your game. And she confesses to him that she has cataracts and is going blind. And that's why she keeps messing stuff up in the kitchen. Anna and Bates are like, I'm feeling so worried and stressed out about knowing that there's a thief among us, these missing snuff boxes. So we should call for a search right now so that whoever hid it can't go move it. So everyone's downstairs in their dining area and they go, Mrs. O'Brien, go search all of our rooms right now to find the snuff box. And O'Brien and Thomas are like, why would they do that if they didn't know exactly where the snuff box was? I never talk about the end of this plot point because basically all that happens is the snuff box ends back up in Lord Grantham's room. They don't show us how that happened. They don't show us what Thomas and O'Brien did to make that happen. But basically someone's like, oh, what happened with the snuff boxes? And Lord Grantham is like, it's back now. So there's no repercussions or anything from that. It's time for the flower show, baby! Here we go. Matthew is such a sad boy. He is so disappointed because he really thought he and Mary were hitting it off, and now he's just feeling really sad, and he goes and he talks to his mom about it. He deserves so much better, this poor guy. The whole family, now that they have kind of realized that the flower show has been rigged this whole time, are all like, oh, Grandma, looks like your flowers aren't quite what they used to be. Mr. Mosley's dad's flowers are looking really nice this year. All of the downstairs folks are walking to the flower show together, and Anna and Bates are kind of walking behind, and they're talking about Mrs. Patmore and how, hard that situation is. They were saying, I hope there's a way that she can get better. And Bates hits us with, there's nothing harder to live with than false hope. Okay. And Anna stops him and is like, can we be so for real? What are you talking about? What does that mean? And he says he can't get into it, but he is not a free man. He's been married, but there's more to the story. And Anna says, you know what? I don't care. I love you. She says, I know it's not ladylike, but I'm not a lady, and I don't pretend to be. And Bates says, you're a lady to me, and I've never met a finer one. Oh God. And then he rides away in a hay cart because a guy's driving down the road and he's like, hey, anybody need a ride in my hay cart? And they're like, yeah, Mr. Bates, it hurts for you to walk. Get a ride on the hay cart. And he rides away sadly on the hay cart. Mary tries to make amends with Matthew at the flower show, but he's kind of over it. He is just feeling really put down by her. Tables are kind of turning now. We see the pursuer is now the pursuee, as it were. So Mary, feeling rejected, insults Edith for no reason and walks away. So Edith makes meaningful eye contact with O'Brien from across the room and says ominously aloud to herself, she who laughs last laughs loudest. We are reading the results of the flower show. Lady Violet is up at the podium reading the winner of the best bloom. She opens the card. It's her name on the card, but she reads out Mr. Mosley's dad as the winner of the flower show. See, you can teach an old dog new empathy and class consciousness. Aww. And the final shot of the episode is Edith writing a letter to the Turkish embassy. Uh-oh! Episode 6. Sybil is in town listening to a liberal politician speak. There's an election coming up, so she has had Branson drive her into like the nearest city that they live by, and it starts getting a little rowdy. Isabel is also there because she is also an informed queen. She is into local politics, and she says, Branson, you should really get Sybil out of here because if she gets hurt, it is your job on the line, so you should probably skedaddle. And then Sybil and Branson talk about politics on the way home and continue to hit it off. Carson is off his game. He forgot to ring the dressing gong, can you believe? And Mrs. Patmore is making a souffle for the first course. Everything is a miss. He has received a telegram that is throwing him off. Something about this show is there's a lot of people reading telegrams, reacting to them, and then we don't find out what they say for another few scenes. While dressing him for dinner, Mr. Bates lets it slip to Lord Grantham that Branson took Sybil to that rally, and Lord Grantham is pissed. He yells at Sybil at dinner. Mary says Sybil is entitled to have opinions. And Violet hits us with, no, she's not. Not until she's married. And then her husband will tell her what to think. And Mary just says, oh, Granny. Carson now reveals to us what the telegram said. He goes to Cora and tells her that another member of staff in the house of the Turkish ambassador that he knows is also hearing this rumor about Mary and Pamuk. Thomas and O'Brien are framing Bates for stealing again. We're doing the same thing. Remember how Thomas stole that wine at the beginning of the last episode? They're framing Bates for stealing that wine now. They really are done with this guy, and they're like, we're just gonna keep trying the same thing until it works. And because Daisy has a crush on Thomas, he's like, hey, Daisy, didn't you see Mr. Bates, like, stealing stuff? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, I think you saw Bates stealing wine. And she goes with it because she is a tiny little idiot. Bates knows that Thomas stole the wine. He saw him stealing the wine. He is so like gutturally averse to being a snitch that he can't bring himself to do it, even though they are framing him for it, but he won't say that it was Thomas. He's just like, I can't tell you who did it, but I know it wasn't me, but I won't say who I know it is. And because Bates won't tell the truth, Carson is starting to believe that he actually might be the thief. Robert and Cora are getting ready for bed, and they're talking about the girls, and they're like, wow, we really gotta, make sure Sybil is staying safe with all of her political activity, and we need to get Mary settled away. And then Cora says, poor Edith, I feel like we never really talk about her. Part of me worries that she's gonna be the one to take care of us in our old age. And Robert says, what a ghastly prospect. The next day, Lord Anthony Strachan, Mr. Old himself, is back with his car, and he wants to take Mary out for a spin, but she's already got her SLT on, her sassy little top hat, which we all know means she's going for a ride, so she can't. And Edith is like, I'm free. Could I hop in? So they go for a drive together, and they're kind of hitting it off. Edith is, asking him about his late wife and the things they did together, and he's kind of lighting up about it, I don't think he's ever met a young woman who's wanted to know about his life and his past. She's not embarrassed about the fact that he's old. So they are having a fun little drive together. Mary and Matthew run into each other in the gardens. They're walking the grounds, and they are back to hitting it off, dude. The chemistry between these two it's electric. Julian Fellows knows how to write romantic banter like nobody else. Oh my God. They are talking about the drama last night of Lord Grantham and Sybil fighting at dinner, and Mary's like, I love a good argument. And Matthew says, well, if that's true,
We should see more of each other.
Again, please ignore that these two are cousins. They're so distantly related. They're so distantly related. Just ignore it, please. Lady Violet, Grandma, has gotten a letter from a friend of hers about the Mr. Pamuk and Mary scandal. So it's really getting around, okay? Everybody's chatting about it. And these are just the few people who are close enough to the family to reach out to be like, hey, heard this bad thing about your family. Cora confirms that it is all true. Granny is aghast. Back downstairs, Bates and Anna are discussing this new round of framing, wherein Bates says, I've been here for 2 years. What is the time frame here? We have had no clarification of time jumps. Apparently the first season takes place over 2 years. I did not know that. While Mary was out riding, her horse got injured, and she runs into William in the village, and he's like, oh, what are you doing out here? She's like, oh, my horse hurt his foot. And he's like, oh, well, I can help you out. So William is a certified sweet boy, certified horse girl. And later that day, when he's back at the house, he's mixing up a poultice for the horse. He is just the sweetest to ever do it. Daisy walks in and is like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making a poultice for Lady Mary's horse. And she calls him a big softy. And he's like, yeah, well, it's probably because my parents are so nice and I love them so much. And we always had so much trust together in our house and we would never lie. And Daisy thinks about how she's lying and starts to feel bad about how she's lying about Mr. Bates stealing the wine. We then, immediately after she's even introduced, not even as an on-screen character, find out that William's mom is sick, but she doesn't want him to know about it because she doesn't want him to worry or take off work or do anything to jeopardize his job. Now, the next day, Anthony Strallen comes back to the house and is like, hey, I have an extra ticket to this concert tonight. And Mary's like, oh, sorry, I'm busy. And he goes, No, I was actually here to see if Edith wanted to come. Sybil is trying to convince her dad to let her go to a charity society meeting. And he is really resistant because she got in a lot of trouble last time she was out. She was in a dangerous situation. She's like, no, I have to go to this charity meeting. Isn't that what women are supposed to do, is go to their charity meetings? And he's like, yeah, fine. But while Branson is driving her to the charity meeting, she's like, here's the thing. We're not actually going to a charity meeting. We're going to go to the reading of the election. And Branson is like, no, I can't do this again. I'm going to get fired. So they go to the reading of the election because Branson just can't say no to Sybil. And it's starting to get rowdy. Matthew is there in town because he's doing some lawyer work, I guess. And he's coming out of his office and he sees some goons getting out of the back of a truck. And he's like, uh-oh, that's going to be messy. And then he sees Sybil and Branson in the crowd, and he's like, oh my God, I gotta go deal with this. And of course, as soon as the goons get in there, Sybil gets knocked to the ground because she is a tiny, frail woman. Nobody else gets knocked to the ground. They get in a little scuffle, but somebody just kind of flings an arm out, and Sybil goes down and hits her head. And Matthew and Branson are like, oh no. So Matthew's like, just take her back to my house and my mom will be there and she can help and it'll all be fine. Branson takes them back to Matthew and Isabel's house and they are just kind of nursing her back to health. She's fine. She got a little bump, Matthew is helping her back up to her feet and she is giving him the biggest goo-goo eyes of all time because he came and rescued her from the rowdy crowds and the goons from the van. And poor Branson is just so stressed out. He's so sweet because he's mostly worried about Sybil and it's like, is she gonna be okay? Is she gonna be okay? He really doesn't care about losing his job at this point, which he should. Because he very well may. Mrs. Hughes and Carson are having a little kiki in his office, just talking about this wine theft debacle and how everyone is spreading these rumors about Lady Mary, and he's really mad and sad that everybody is being mean to Mary because he loves her so much. And Hughes says, if there's one thing I hate, it's an atmosphere. And we've got a real atmosphere going on here, which, real. Daisy bursts into the room and admits that she was lying about seeing Mr. Bates steal the wine. And then we have a family meeting to scold Sybil while she is still barely able to stand. Lord Grantham gives us one of the best shots of the entire season here. He goes, "How dare you!" It's really good. And he wants to fire Branson, but everyone's like, don't fire Branson. Like, we all know this wasn't his fault. Sybil is like, I will run away. You will never see me again if you fire my sexy Irish chauffeur. While we're having family meeting to yell at Sybil, upstairs, downstairs, we are having a public trial held by Carson involving Bates, Thomas, O'Brien, and Daisy. And he's just like, what is going on? Why do we keep stealing things and then lying about the stealing the things? Bates will still not snitch on Thomas and then goes on to continue telling on himself by being like, you know, I used to be a criminal. I used to be a really, really, really bad guy. Let yourself win, brother. Like, what are we doing? And then Bates is like, you know what? I was such a bad dude back in the day that I'm just gonna resign. I don't deserve to work here. And Carson is like, what are you talking about, dog? Like, you used to be a bad guy, okay? Just get back to work, you idiot. So Mary and Matthew are having Sammy's and wine in the dining room after Matthew has helped Sybil with this whole debacle. They wanted to feed him before he left to thank him. And their hands are dangerously close to each other. And Mary says, well, you know, I think Sybil has a crush on you after you saved her the other day. And he goes, something no one could ever accuse you of. And she just goes, oh, I don't know. And Matthew was like, what? You have been so mean to me for apparently the 2 years since we have met. And later that night, they smooch in the dining room. And love must be in the air because outside, Bates and Anna almost smooch. But Bates is like, no, I can't. And he says, go to bed and dream of a better man. And she says, I can't, because there isn't one. Oh my God, these two! Mary goes up to her mom's room and tells her that Matthew has proposed. Cora is like, okay, like, are we happy about this? Like, what's going on? And Mary's like, yeah, I'm in love with him, and I have been for a long time, but I really feel like I need to tell him about Pamuk before we do anything. And Cora's like, don't do that. Thomas and O'Brien are having a good doorway lurk, talking about how they are ready to take Bates out. Thomas wants that job. Mary finds out about William's mom, and because he was so nice to her and her horse, she's like, you know, we gotta tell this guy that his mom is sick. Like, let's just give him some time off. Let's make sure he can go see his mom, which is a very nice thing for Mary to do. That's also some character development. We have some empathy. That's good. We're learning. And Violet has her episode mandated character arc where she develops a new way of thinking and forgives Mary for her scandal and starts working to dispel the rumors and tells all of her friends that it was a scandal made up by Pamuk's political rivals to make him look bad. Violet and Cora decide that if Mary doesn't end up marrying Matthew, that they're gonna take her to Rome to find some loose moral Italian to marry her. So that's their plan for that. Season 1 finale time. Let's go. We are having a garden party at the end of this episode. Get ready for it. We have had a little time jump at the top of this episode. It's just been a few months. The family has been in London for the summer season, and they are coming back today. And we get our first time card since the first episode. It is July 1914. Was 1914 an important year for Europe? Does anybody know? I don't know. We'll find out. Lord Grantham, upon his return, asks Carson if there's been any news about the town, and he goes, well, you know, not much. We're all mostly talking about the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Also, William's mom died, which is sad. And Mrs. Patmore's vision is getting worse, and Hughes and Carson need to make a decision about what they're going to do about her. And Bates is still being so cagey about the details of his dramatic backstory, so they're also deciding whether Bates is going to stay or not. That's a question. Mary is still in London. She did not come back with the rest of the family. She has still not given Matthew an answer. She said she would give him an answer when she got back from London. We also find out, upon their return, that Cora is pregnant. She's having an old lady pregnancy. And everyone's like, oh, that could change everything, because if it's a boy, then Matthew doesn't inherit anything. Thomas and O'Brien have gotten some more tea about Bates from another staff member they know from a different house, that Bates got in trouble for stealing regimental silver when he was in the army. Mr. Squarehead himself, Evelyn Napier, goes to visit Mary in London, and he was engaged, is no longer engaged, and is going to call on Mary. So everyone's a little bit intrigued, but he's like, hey girl, I have heard these rumors about you and Pamuk, and some people are saying that I started them because I was jilted or something, and I just want to clear the air. That was not me. In fact, I actually heard that it was your sister that started that rumor. Evelyn Napier coming back with the truth. Matthew is feeling really weird about the fact that he's not heard back from Mary yet, and that Cora is pregnant, and he might lose all of this stuff he was promised. But Lord Grantham assures him that he will still take care of them and still, considers them family now, and says that him and his mom can keep their house even if the baby is a boy. Mary is back in London still with her Aunt Rosamond, and they've received the news that Cora is pregnant. And Rosamond is like, dude, you can't accept Matthew before you know if this baby is a boy. Like, you gotta wait until you know if he has an inheritance. And Mary is like, well, I kind of think I want to marry him regardless. And Rosamond is like, no. You don't want that poor guy if he's going to be a poor guy, right? So Mary's feeling really conflicted. And also, Violet's maid is quitting. And it's a whole thing. Lord Grantham is sending Mrs. Patmore into town to get like an eye surgery and to get glasses for her, was it cataracts? Whatever her sight loss is. So he's like, don't worry, girl, we're gonna take care of you, which is nice. Again, he's not, he's nice. Sometimes he's nice. The Crawleys' cook, Mrs. Bird, is gonna come be the cook at the big house while Mrs. Patmore is off getting her operation. When Mrs. Bird comes in, they are fighting. Mrs. Patmore and Mrs. Bird are both opinionated queens, and they're just sniping back and forth at each other. This is like the first person Mrs. Patmore has ever gone head to head with like this, and everybody is very entertained by it. Mary gets back to Downton, and Matthew's like, hey, so you said you would tell me your answer when you got back from London, and then you delayed coming back from London, and now you're here. So, what's the deal? And Mary's like, oh, I just don't know yet. And Matthew can see right through her. And it sucks because Mary finally actually has admitted what she wants. She knows what she wants, but now she has all these voices in her head telling her to wait until we know if he inherits. But she has fully admitted that she wants to marry him regardless, but she won't say that to him. But she does admit that Violet, her grandma, told her to accept him, and then if the baby's a boy, call it off. Which, telling him, I call that character growth for Mary, because I feel like at the top of the season, she would have just done that. That totally would have been a top of season 1 Mary move. So that's something. Bates still will not tell the truth about his past. So him and Lord Grantham are talking about that. He tells Lord Grantham that Thomas and O'Brien are not to be trusted. So later on, Lord Grantham and Cora are talking about that in Cora's room. And Cora's like, well, I mean, if Bates says O'Brien isn't trustworthy, should I fire her? And then we pan to the mirror of the armoire that Cora is sitting at. And who do we see in the reflection, lurking in the doorway? O'Brien. She overhears this. She starts freaking out because she thinks she's going to lose her job. So, of course, she has to go have a good doorway lurk with Thomas. And she is so mad that they're considering firing her. Mrs. Patmore is leaving for her surgery, and she pulls Daisy aside and she's like, hey, I don't want them to get too used to this Mrs. Bird lady, because if they like her cooking better than mine, they might fire me. So I need you to sabotage her. And Daisy's like, oh my God, poison the food? And Mrs. Patmore is like, no, just make it so it doesn't taste good. And Daisy's like, yeah, with poison? I think Daisy wants to poison them. I think Daisy loves feeding people poison. Knock, knock, knock. Who's that at the door? it's Mr. Telephone. Mr. Telephone is here to install 2 telephones at Downton Abbey. It's 1914, baby! He is talking about how business is booming. He's going around installing all these telephones, but it's hard because you just can't find a good secretary these days. Sybil overhears this and goes, "Have I got the girl for you?" Anna is accompanying Mrs. Patmore on her journey to London to get her eye surgery. And while she's there, she's doing some side questing. She is going to finally get to the bottom of whatever is going on with Mr. Bates. So she goes snooping around in old army record places, and she finds out that he went to prison for theft and is posing as his cousin to try to get some info. And she goes to this records guy, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry, I don't have anything. I don't have any info on him or his wife." Anna is devastated at this information that he currently has a wife, apparently. Mary confronts Edith about starting the rumor, telling the truth about her and Pamuk, and Edith calls her a slut. Edith then goes for a ride with Anthony Stralin, and Anthony says, "Hey, I've got a question to ask you at the garden party later." Isabel thinks that Lady Violet is the one who made Mary change her mind about marrying Matthew. So she's really mad, and they're fighting about it. Really, the only important thing that happens in this scene is Violet says, "Put that in your pipe and smoke it." So remember how Lady Violet's maid is leaving her? So Cora is helping her find a replacement. And this whole plot line seems so pointless. They talk about it for so long until Cora has put an ad in the paper for a new lady's maid. Thomas sees that and tells O'Brien, who sees that her boss has put an ad in the paper for her exact job. So just more reason for O'Brien to start spiraling, to continue spiraling. Now Daisy, following Mrs. Patmore's instruction to sabotage Mrs. Bird's cooking, has grated some soap into the soup. But it turns out the soup that she grated the soap into was the soup that Mrs. Bird made for the staff to eat. That was the downstairs family meal. And so everyone's eating the soup, and they're like, "Why does this taste like soap?" And Daisy just starts crying. And Mrs. Bird is like, "You know what? I kind of respect your game. That's honestly kind of sweet that you would really stick your neck out like that for Mrs. Patmore." Which I don't know why Daisy would, because Mrs. Patmore is terrible to her. If I was Daisy, I would want Mrs. Patmore out. She's constantly verbally abusing that poor girl. Now, the next time Mr. Telephone is at the house, Sybil brings Gwen to him and is like, "Hey, I have this friend who would be a really great secretary for you." He's kind of interviewing Gwen, and he's like, "Well, I'm confused because it seems like you don't really have a lot of work experience." And she's like, "Well, I was kind of trying to keep it a secret, but I'm a maid." And he's like, "You know what? My mom was a housemaid. So I'm actually super cool with that. You can be my secretary now." So Gwen gets her cool secretary job. Glad that that worked out for her. Love to see a ginger winning. At the end of the day, Anna goes and finds Bates's mom to try to learn an ounce of the truth of this situation. It turns out that his wife was the one who was stealing. He was struggling with alcoholism and PTSD and just felt like he was really failing his wife and being a bad husband. When his wife was helping out at the barracks and she stole the silver, he took the fall for her just because he felt like he had been failing her, so he went to prison for her. Oh my God. Make it make sense. Bates, I get it, you're trying to be a good guy, but this is crazy. Everybody downstairs is like, "Ooh, I wonder if there's gonna be a war after this massive political assassination that happened." And Thomas is like, "Ooh, I can't do that. Being a soldier would be bad for me." So he goes to Dr. Clarkson, who's the doctor at the village hospital, and he is cooking up some kind of scheme. He's like, "Hey, I've been really wanting to learn a medical trade. Like, could you just like teach me a few things about this? Mrs. Patmore comes back with some sick shades. And she's ready to cook for the garden party. Her and Mrs. Bird make up, and they decide they're gonna cook for the garden party together. We have a very cute moment of Carson practicing answering the telephone. He's like, hello, Carson. Hello, this is Mr. Carson. It's really cute. And then he picks up, and the operator is like, hello? What do you want? Who can I connect you to? And he's like, oh, no, sorry, I wasn't talking to you. Really sweet Carson moment. Anna goes to tell Lord Grantham about everything she learned about Bates in town, and he decides to keep Bates on. He's like, you know what? Sounds like he's not actually a bad guy. Shocker. We're gonna keep him on. O'Brien hears Violet and Cora talking about that lady's maid position again, and is just freaking out. She's like sitting there just like staring into the middle distance, freaking out about the fact that she's gonna lose her job. So Cora is in the bath, and O'Brien goes and leaves a piece of soap on the ground next to the bathtub so that Cora will like slip and fall when she gets out of the bath. O'Brien does that, goes back into the room, looks at herself dramatically in the mirror and goes, Sarah O'Brien, this is not who you are, and turns to go undo the trap she's laid for Cora, but it's too late, and we hear Cora slip and fall. And she miscarries the baby, and it turns out it was a boy. So that's a lot of information for the family to unpack for that moment. O'Brien is racked with guilt. Everyone is downstairs like, wow, this is so sad. And Thomas is being a jerk about it downstairs. He's just being so flippant about it. And William is like, hey man, like, it's sad that a baby died. And Thomas is like, oh yeah, what, are you gonna go cry about your mom dying again? And William finally just decks Thomas. Everybody just kind of lets them fight for a little bit. They make sure that William gets a few good hits in before Branson comes and like scoops him up. And it's time for the garden party, everybody. Dr. Clarkson finds Thomas and tells him he found a post for him as like a military like medic, I guess. And is like, you know, it's probably like really going to benefit you in the long run if you sign up now, if like we're about to head into like conscription times. And Thomas is like, perfect. That was my plan all along. Daisy has finally seen the light and apologizes to William for being so evil. And William immediately forgives her. Sybil and Branson find each other and are celebrating the fact that Gwen got the job from Mr. Telephone. Hughes clocks Branson and Sybil's vibe and is like, hey, you gotta be careful with that. Like, if you want to keep your job, you better be careful with that. Anthony Strallen shows up and finds Mary and is like, hey, do you know where Edith is? I've been looking for her. And Mary goes, oh yeah, she's probably somewhere avoiding the really gross old guy that she keeps talking about. She was like, oh my god, I think this horrible, ugly old gross guy is gonna propose to me today. Ooh, I better hide. So Anthony is like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go then. That seems to be my cue. Edith sees them talk, sees Strallen leave, and makes meaningful, vengeful eye contact with Mary across the yard. O'Brien feels so terrible about what she has done and is being extra nice to Cora. And Cora's like, you know, O'Brien, you treat me so well. I don't know what I'd do without you. And then Lady Violet walks over and Cora's like, oh, did anybody reply to that advertisement to be your maid? And O'Brien goes, oh, no. This might be a turning point for Miss Sarah O'Brien. Anna finds Bates and apologizes for going over his head to find all that information. And he goes, you still don't know. There's still more to the story. How? How can there be more to the story? And Anna is like, okay, like, what's the deal with your wife? Where is she? Is she alive? What's going on with her? And he says, I can't tell you that. Bates, answer a question, challenge, level impossible. He can't do it. He can't do it. He can't answer a question. asked by the woman that he has admitted to love. Molesley walks up to Bates and goes, "Hey, that Anna girl's pretty cute. Is she single?" And Bates goes, "No, I think there's somebody that she likes." And Molesley goes, "Oh, well, does he like her back?" And Bates goes, "Yeah, he definitely likes her back." Matthew and Mary are fighting somewhere in the forest. Matthew is feeling like he has just been so tossed around for like the last few weeks. He proposed and then didn't get an answer, and he was inheriting and then he wasn't inheriting, and now he's inheriting again, and he rescinds his proposal. He's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, nobody is giving me a straight answer. Nobody is treating me normal right now. And he is like, I am out of here. I just need to leave for a while. I need to not see you people. Carson finds Mary crying after Matthew has left and gives her a very sweet hug and pep talk because he is Papa. Lord Grantham receives a telegram. A life-changing telegram. England is at war with Germany. It is the beginning of World War I. Everyone is shocked. So that is season 1 of Downton Abbey. I had a lot of fun going over this and living with these characters again. So if we want to do more seasons, let me know. I think it'd be pretty fun. There are many period dramas I am passionate about and would love to continue to discuss. My ultimate goal that I'm starting manifesting now is to get invited to the premiere, the season 3 premiere of The Gilded Age. Season 3 or season 4, whichever one is coming out next. It's happening next year. We don't know when, but I'm trying to get on Julian Fellows' radar. Mr. Fellows, you did sketch comedy in college. I did improv in college. We're connected, okay? We gotta look out for each other, all right? Let's make it happen. Thanks so much for watching this. It was probably really long, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but this was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see y'all again soon. Bye! Put that in your pipe and smoke it.